Wow. Beijing is buzzing this morning?
It really is. Monday, April 7th, 2025. And the U.S.-China trade war, well, it's escalated.
Detonated might be a better word.
Yeah, maybe you're right. This isn't just a gradual ramp up anymore. This feels different.
It's like someone grabbed the nuclear option, put it right on the table.
A potential 50% tariff hike on Chinese goods. And it could all happen by Wednesday, April 9th. That's the deadline President Trump has set.
But there's a catch, right?
A big one. China has to completely backtrack on its own 34% tariff increase by tomorrow, Tuesday.
Less than 48 hours to make a huge decision.
It would be a huge shift for their economy, and not to mention what it would do to their image on the world stage.
It's incredible. Usually these trade disputes drag on forever, months or even years of back and forth, little adjustments here and there.
This is a slow dance. This is like they've decided to skip straight to the final showdown.
And Beijing's not backing down either. Their Commerce Ministry issued a statement, and let me tell you, they did not hold back.
Fight to the end. That's a pretty strong statement.
It is, and they didn't stop there. They called the U.S. actions completely groundless and unilateral bullying.
No mincing words there. That's not diplomatic speak. That's a slap in the face.
It's a clear sign of just how high the stakes are in this whole thing.
It's not just about stuff moving back and forth between two countries. It's way bigger than that.
You're right. It digs into ideas of national pride and long-term economic strategy.
Exactly. China's leaders have been very vocal about their goals. They want more technological independence. They want to be a major player in the global economy.
And these tariffs look like a direct attack on those plans.
It's like the U.S. is trying to clip their wings before they can really fly.
So their tough talk makes sense.
Yeah.
They see this as an existential threat.
And then there's the stock markets from Tokyo to New York. Everyone's on edge.
Jitters everywhere.
It just goes to show how intertwined all our economies are.
So what we're going to do today in our deep dive is cut through all the noise.
We're going to try to make sense of why this is happening, what it means for the future, and most importantly, what it means for you.
Right, because this isn't some far-off abstract issue.
Yeah.
This has the potential to hit your wallet directly.
Exactly. So let's rewind a bit. How did we get to this boiling point?
Yeah, a little history lesson would be helpful.
Well, it all really kicked off yesterday, Sunday, in some parts of the world, but Monday, April 6th, here in the U.S.,
President Trump took to Truth Social.
his platform of choice for these kinds of announcements.
And he laid down the law regarding China's 34% tariff increase.
Remember, that was their response to earlier U.S. tariffs?
And he was crystal clear, reverse it by Tuesday or else.
Or else a massive 50% tariff on a huge range of Chinese goods kicks in on Wednesday.
No wiggle room there.
And then to make things even more dramatic, the announcement that all trade talks with China are off.
Not even paused, just canceled completely.
It's like slamming the door shut on any chance of negotiation.
A real power move.
Now let's talk numbers, because it's easy to get lost in all these percentages.
Yeah, my eyes glaze over when I see too many of those.
So this isn't just one new tariff, we're talking about layering them.
Okay, so walk me through it.
There's already a 20% tariff in place on goods related to fentanyl trafficking that's been there for a while.
Right.
Then last week, China announced their 34% tariff hike in retaliation to the U.S.
Okay, I'm following.
And now on top of all that, we have this new threat of a 50% tariff on a whole bunch of Chinese imports.
So these tariffs, they stack up, don't they?
They absolutely do, and the total impact can be much bigger than you might think.
Can we put this in real-world terms?
Let's imagine a simple gadget, something that costs a U.S. company $10 to import from China.
Oh.
That new 50% tariff kicks in, and suddenly that same gadget costs them $15.
A 50% increase overnight.
And that's just the new tariff alone. If you factor in the existing tariffs, the total cost could easily more than double.
That $10 gadget is suddenly a $20 gadget.
Maybe even more.
And who ends up paying for that?
You do, the consumer.
Because those companies aren't going to just eat that extra cost, are they?
No way, they'll pass it on down the line, and ultimately it's you, the shopper, who fits the bill.
So electronics, clothing, toys, household goods, anything and everything coming from China could get way more expensive.
It's a direct hit to your buying power.
Now, China's not just sitting back and taking all this, are they?
Of course not. They've already fired back with retaliatory tariffs of their own.
Right, targeting things like American agricultural products.
But their response is more than just tit-for-tat tariffs.
What do you mean?
Their Commerce Ministry's statement, it's very revealing. They talk about safeguarding their sovereignty, security, and development interests.
So this isn't just about trade. It's about something much deeper.
It's about China's place in the world, their national pride, their future as a global power.
They've made it clear they want to be a leader in technology and innovation.
And they see these U.S. tariffs as a way to hold them back to keep them dependent on the West.
So their strong language, their defiance, it all makes sense.
They're not going to back down without a fight.
And they were pretty blunt in their assessment of the U.S. actions, calling them a mistake on top of a mistake.
And even using the word blackmailing.
It doesn't sound like there's much room for diplomacy left.
No, the gloves are off.
Now let's talk about how these tariffs actually work, because I think a lot of people don't really get it.
Sure, at their core, tariffs are taxes on imported goods.
So it's the American companies bringing those goods in that pay these taxes, right?
Right. But those companies aren't going to just absorb those extra costs.
Of course not. They'll pass them along to someone else.
Exactly. It's like a chain reaction. It goes from the importer to the distributor to the retailer and finally to you, the customer.
So that's how the price of that Chinese-made gadget goes up.
It's the hidden cost of tariffs.
And it's not just about paying more here in the U.S. There's another angle to this whole thing.
You're right. China could start looking for other customers.
If the U.S. market becomes too expensive or too much of a hassle, they'll go somewhere else.
Exactly. They'll diversify their markets.
And I've heard rumblings about Europe being a prime target.
Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, has talked about the vast opportunities for trade with China.
So this could be a major shift in global trade patterns.
The U.S. might become less important to China while Europe steps in to fill the gap.
Now, while President Trump is talking about a beautiful picture at the end, what's been the reaction on Wall Street?
Not so beautiful. I'm afraid the markets don't like uncertainty, and this trade war is a huge dose of uncertainty.
So stocks are down.
They've been pretty volatile. There's a lot of nervousness. Investors are worried about all sorts of things. Disruptions to supply chains, reduced profits for companies, the overall impact on the global economy.
It's like a domino effect.
Exactly. One thing knocks into another and the whole system starts to wobble.
Yeah, there was a brief moment where it seemed like things might calm down.
You're talking about Kevin Hassett's comments about a possible pause in tariffs?
Yeah, at least on goods not coming from China.
But that was quickly shot down by the White House.
Fake news, they called it.
That swift denial actually made the markets even more jittery.
Because it showed that the administration is really committed to this course of action.
No backing down.
Now let's get some expert opinions on all this, starting with Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. He's been worried about inflation, hasn't he?
He has, and he said that these tariffs could make things even worse.
Because tariffs can drive up prices.
Exactly, and inflation is already a big problem for a lot of people. It eats away at their savings and makes it harder to make ends meet.
So higher prices on Chinese goods could push inflation even higher.
That's the concern.
And we've seen this kind of thing before, haven't we?
Trade wars? Oh yeah, history's full of them.
The Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act in the 1930s comes to mind.
That was a disaster.
Remind us what happened?
Well, in an attempt to protect American businesses, the U.S. slapped huge tariffs on a whole bunch of imports.
Sounds familiar.
It does. And the result was a trade war. Other countries retaliated, global trade collapsed, and the Great Depression got even worse.
This is not a good precedent.
Not at all. Of course, the world is different today.
We're much more interconnected.
Exactly. Those global supply chains we talked about, they mean that what happens between the U.S. and China affects everyone.
It's like a spiderweb tug on one strand, and the whole thing vibrates.
A very delicate balance.
So here we are with China saying they'll never accept this, and they'll fight to the end.
And we have President Trump, who's never been one to back down from a fight.
It's a recipe for disaster, isn't it?
It's certainly a very risky situation.
What are the possible outcomes here?
Well, it's hard to say for sure, but we could see continued volatility in the markets. Prices on everyday goods could keep going up, and there's even a risk of shortages if these trade barriers really mess up global supply chains.
It's a pretty bleak picture.
It's definitely a cause for concern.
So the big takeaway from all this is that the U.S.-China trade war has entered a dangerous new phase.
And it's not just some abstract economic policy. It has the potential to hit you right in your wallet.
Take a look around your house. Think about all the things you buy regularly. How many of them come from China or use parts made in China?
Chances are it's a lot more than you realize.
And if those prices go up, it could really affect your budget.
That's the reality of this situation.
This trade war, it's like a soap opera full of drama and uncertainty. We're all caught up in it.
And it's not over yet. Stay informed, pay attention, because what happens next could have a big impact on all our lives.
We'll be keeping a close eye on it, and we'll be back soon to break it all down for you.
Until then, take care.
And thanks for listening.